Welcome back. This is the Close It Now podcast. Sam Wakefield here. I am so excited with this guest today. He is a freaking rock star. You will see here in just a minute. I'll get into the introduction. But first of all, just want to say, so glad you're joining us. Welcome to the new format. I hope you're enjoying 2 podcasts a week. For the first 2 years, it was a little bit less often, but now we're on a roll. We've got everything going on. We've got the new company that's hosting the podcast, so that is why we are having such able to produce so many episodes now. And thanks to every single one of you who listen all around the world. I think the last numbers that I saw were in 24 countries around the world. Basically, if your country gets hot and you have any semblance of speaking English, somebody in your country has listened to this podcast, which is awesome. I love technology and the internet because of that. So first of all, just want to say, hey, if you haven't, go join the Facebook group. It's a cool community with all, for everything from business owners to, and not HVAC specific, but not just HVAC. We have people that all listen to all different trades all over the world that just love to dive into the philosophy. We talk on a different level on this podcast, and you're going to absolutely hear that today with our guest that is joining us. So I just want to take a quick introduction. This is a gentleman that I've known for several years now. I've known him in different facets, but man, I've just been so impressed with his ability to have a conversation that's different than any that you really have ever had. So, a little bit about him. This is my friend Jimmy Jays. He's a business coach. He's also so he's been a business coach for a lot of different people, a lot of successful people. But the reason he is here today, he is with a company called Apricot Solar. He has been a business coach with the owner, and he's also in the field as a solar representative himself. You know, the thing that's different about this is that he's helped this company from the start go from zero from the very beginning to $134 million in 5 years of revenue, and no stopping there. That type of growth is not easily accomplished, but they've done an amazing job of just going out and crushing it. His personal goal, is to create 12 solar millionaires across the next 12 months. Boom. How do you like that? That is pretty awesome. That is net income into an individual's pocket. So I am super excited to hear what he has to say. I know that you will be as well. So welcome my friend Jimmy Jays to the podcast today. Jimmy, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Hello, Close It Now community. Welcome. Super glad to be chatting with you guys today, and honored to be on the show.
Awesome. Well, I love it, man. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your time that you're giving us today. We know we're going to come across some, just every time we talk, there's some amazing nuggets that I get from you that can apply immediately. That's one of the concepts that this podcast is built on, is, giving individual nuggets that we can immediately apply to go out and completely change ourselves right away. See, higher close rates, higher average tickets, better bottom line. So give us a little bit of background on you. How in the world did you get into the position you're in to develop the skills and become the person that it takes to business coach a company from 0 to 134 million in 5 years? I mean, that's pretty dramatic feat.
Yeah, I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for my entire adult life, and have been somebody who's always had a business coach. My very first coach, I was 22 years old, and I hired a coach from the Rich Dad Company. For those of you who know Rich Dad Poor Dad or the Cash Flow Game. And at 22 years old, I had to tell my mom, that I couldn't drive home for Thanksgiving because my car was worth about $1,200 and probably wouldn't make the 2-hour drive. And then I had to explain to her that the reason I didn't have a new car was because, I spent all of that money hiring some business coach on the internet, and that was years ago. So I've always been, somebody who's had a coach myself, always been, somebody who's, done a lot of reading and has just invested in myself. Gone through different programs, like one called Board of Advisors that works specifically with open book financials. And so I've gone through it myself. I've built businesses myself. And so it's just really an honor to be able to coach people. And yeah, with Dave specifically, I mean, he's just built a world-class company. So I can't take credit for all of it. Went from 0 to 134 million last year alone. So not 134 total, but 134 last year alone. I think $89 million in 2019. And I believe in calendar year 2022, Apricot will cross $1 billion in sales just in that one calendar year. So, I mean, I can't take all the credit. He's a brilliant entrepreneur, and it's been great just, working with him to create something special.
Geez, I'm gonna floored here by these numbers. Coming from so many other trades, coming from HVAC, coming from all these places, when you start using the B number, we're talking about numbers that are unheard of for these other industries. And we're talking about one company here. We're not talking about just a spread of companies. This is not holding companies. This is one company doing this. Wow. Man, it's so awesome to hear that that's possible, for one. So everybody listening, dream bigger, faster, set bigger goals, set bigger vision, because it's possible. If anyone can do it, anyone can do it. And so that's powerful. The other thing I heard you say is, gosh, leaders are readers, right? You work to become someone worth buying from, which we say all the time in this podcast. So as you increase your own personal growth, clearly everything else just kind of happens around you. So question then, one of the things we were going to talk about in this episode is, we've got one of the biggest questions I get, especially in the Facebook group, and that's the reason I mentioned it at the beginning, is depending on the time of year, when it's right in the hot season, when it's right in the cold season, we get the phone's ringing off the hook. We can barely keep up. But we know that everything for most trades is pretty seasonal. What do we do, especially in the off season, but also to maximize, even when the phone is ringing off the hook, we know we've got our ad spend for lead generation. They're not always the best leads coming in. One of the things we wanted to talk about today are 5 essential networking connections to get more leads, and not just to get more leads, but to get quality leads. So that's something that I wanted to ask you about, because I know that's, when we were talking before, I know that's how you've helped Apricot get to this place by generating an enormous amount of self-generated leads. So there's no ad spend involved. The company makes better profit, they makes better margin by generating, people generating leads on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to talk about that. Inside of Apricot, they spend millions of dollars literally on lead generation. And so, it's not a big part of my role necessarily there, but if you think about this through the lens of, people who are listening in today, you've probably got, owners on the line who've got a company. You've probably got people on the line who maybe lead a small team in HVAC. And then you've probably got people in the field that are just out there, making sales themselves. And to me, lead generation equals control, right? If you have your income and your income is going up and it's going down and it's seasonal, it's usually a case of the fact that you're not in control of the lead flow. So really being able to, to do that, if you're a company owner, even if you've got lots of lead flow, even if you've got lots of money spending on marketing dollars, it means that you have to put out an enormous amount of money, right? And then hopefully it comes back to you. And even if it's profitable, business owners on the line will get this, even if it's profitable, it's money that goes out of the business and it stays gone for a while until, the money comes back in from the HVAC jobs. So really, and that affects your ability to scale, because you can't go hire 10 more people because you can't fill their calendar. So as a company owner, if you can get people in the field in this habit of being able to get self-generated leads on top of the company provided ones, it really will increase your ability to scale. If you're somebody in the field, right? Why do you want to learn this? Well, you want to learn this because if you don't learn this, then you basically need to sit around waiting for company appointments. Hopefully they come in, but it's outside of your control.
Right.
So,
man, we've all been in that position. That's for sure.
absolutely. So what I'm going to go through with you right now is something I learned from my friend Mia Tor. It's called the 5 Essential Networking Connections. And you're always networking. So whether you're at a networking event specifically to network, whether you're just out in life, whether you're meeting people, at a cigar bar, or whether you're working with a homeowner in the home, right? Every single interaction is a chance to network. And the 5 essential networking connections, connection number 1, if you're taking notes, is the client, your ideal client. Okay. Connection number 2 is called the supporter. Connection number 3 is the referral partner. Connection number 4 is the collaborator. And connection number 5 is the influencer. Okay, so those are the 5 connections. We'll run through them. You're going to hear them again. First one is the ideal client. You know this person. You know how to help them. You work with them all the time. All right. There's a difference between a client and an ideal client, right? In the HVAC space, maybe a client is somebody who just, they want this little tiny job done, and it's not really that profitable for you. And you're hoping that you get in the door and maybe you can help them with a bigger system, or maybe you can help them get a referral or something like that. An ideal client is the person that you wish you could be sitting with all day long.
Right.
So who is that ideal client? Now, the thing is, though, is out of 100 people, there's not very many that are an ideal client at that moment in time, especially in the HVAC world, right? Where even if you have a great customer, they just might not need your help right now.
Right.
Right. Maybe they got a system 3 years ago and it's another 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever before they need you again. Right. So they might be a great person, but they just don't need your services right now. There's a very small percentage of the world. The next is the supporter. Now, a supporter doesn't necessarily grow your business directly. They don't necessarily give you more business. Maybe they've got other resources, though, or things that can help you. So if you lead a networking group, as a for instance, a supporter might be somebody who owns a business and they let you use their space, their boardroom, right, for your networking event. Mm-hmm. A supporter could be, somebody who you learn something from, like a coach or somebody who you meet and they teach you something. And, like us right now, right? I'm talking to somebody and I'm in solar, they're in HVAC, right? But if there's something that I know that you can learn, then great. If there's something Sam knows that I can learn, then great. We can still support each other without being financially connected. Mm-hmm. So number 1 is the ideal client. Number 2 is the supporter. Number 3 is the referral partner. Now, a referral partner, you probably know about this, is just somebody who, they send you a referral. So are our referrals baked into your process?
That's a good question.
Do you get referrals because sometimes somebody sends you a referral, or are you intentional about getting referrals? When you sit with somebody, right, and they love you and they love your service, do you say thank you and leave? Or in their phone, do you write in HVAC guy Sam? So that when they're trying to remember who their HVAC guy was, right, they can just easily put it into their phone and tell their friends about you when somebody else that they know needs something, right? Mm-hmm. Is there a process in place, in other words, for you to get referrals? So number 3 is the referral partner. And just because you get referrals doesn't mean you have a referral system. A referral system. What is the process that you use to get more referrals? And referrals are easier It's a better conversation. If you're an owner, it doesn't cost you ad spend. And if a referral leads you to a referral, leads you to a referral, leads you to a referral, you literally have an endless supply of friendly business.
Mhm.
Anything
Love
you
it.
want to say about any of those first three, Sam?
That's I've seen this work so well, for years, and this is something I've talked a lot about in the mostly in the Facebook group. Actually, this is the first real podcast, and I love that you're bringing this up. First real podcast to really dive into the power of generating referrals. Up until now, we've talked a lot about technique and just different concepts, but at the end of the day, if we don't have people to sit in front of, we don't have people to show our opportunity to, then nothing happens until something gets sold. It's the old expression. So, personally, I've been involved in, at one point, I was involved in 5 different networking groups at the same time. We hear a lot about, I don't have time to be involved in that many networking groups. And I would definitely submit to you that make time. You don't have time to not be involved. The years that I was involved in so many network groups, I had probably somewhere between $300,000 and $500,000 of revenue from people that would just call me up, say, got your number from somebody, and my close rate was right around 80 to 85% with those referrals because they were already warmed up when they came to me. So I've definitely lived this out in the past, and just I'm so glad you're bringing it up because it's such a killer topic that we need to really spend a lot more time on.
Yeah, and if you want more company leads, like honor them, right? The owner of your company is spending money, good money on leads, and sometimes they spend that money, and something happens with Facebook or something happens with SEO, and they spend all this money, and it doesn't bring them back the same number of leads as it usually does, and it cuts into their profit. So
Mhm.
if every lead they give you, you turn that into another self-generated lead, right? That's something that you can do for the company. So even if you're in the
Mhm.
field, think like a business owner, and that's how you're going to raise your way through the ranks of the company that you're working with.
I love it. I love it.
So we talked about the ideal client. We talked about the supporter. We talked about the referral partner. The next one is the collaborator. A collaborator. A collaborator is somebody that you can work together with. So a collaborator in the HVAC space, maybe there is somebody where they've got a similar service that doesn't compete, and you can work together.
Mhm.
Maybe there's a collaborator where you're building a team, and there's somebody who has a list of people who are in the sales industry, right? Maybe
Wow.
there's somebody who's got a 10x Facebook group that follows Grant Cardone, and there's a bunch of people in there that are salespeople. And what if you can do something together with that person? If you're trying to grow a sales team in HVAC, right?
Mhm.
There's somebody with a list of people, and you could collaborate together, and potentially do something together, do some training together, or something that might end up growing some people and bringing them into your sales organization. So
Mhm.
you can do that either on the sales and recruiting side, or you can do that on the customer acquisition side. So number 4 is the collaborator, and again, collaborators, you can find them inside of networking groups, right?
Mhm. Wow. Powerful.
Connection number 5 is the influencer. And the influencer is by far, without question, my favorite of the connection types. And they usually get missed, they usually get ignored. All right. And an influencer, there's a few different definitions. There's a story of Robert Kiyosaki, who I referenced earlier, from Rich Dad Poor Dad. And back in his early days, he went on Oprah, and he was talking about his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And apparently, I don't know this for sure, but apparently when they went to commercial break, Oprah leans over to him and says, "I just sold 1 million copies of your book, kid."
That's
Right.
amazing.
So if you think about that, what if there was one influencer who they took their platform and they promoted you?
Mhm.
What could that mean? It could mean bestseller status overnight in Robert Kiyosaki's case, right? And then the influence and everything that happened, after that. So the way that I like to think about it is, who is your ideal client? Okay. And then you can spend time trying to find an ideal client. Where do I go find them? Or you can ask the question, who has lists of my ideal client? Who has lists of my ideal client? So if I'll use solar as an example, right? So because it's the industry I'm in, if I'm in solar, right, who do I want? I want to connect with homeowners. And one of the biggest catches in solar is, in order for somebody to go solar, the roof has to be in good condition. Otherwise, they can't go solar. Okay. So an influencer, somebody who has lists of ideal clients for me, if I say, hey, somebody who owns a home and that home has a relatively new roof, I mean, hey, that would be perfect. So who has lists of people like that?
Well, that sounds an awful lot like a roofer to me.
Right. So if there's a roofing company and they've got, 1,000 people on their list, they've already spent money to acquire those 1,000 people. They've already probably got most of the roofing work, out of it that they're going to get out of it. And so that is an influential connection to me. And when I think about it, if I can give them some money every time they send somebody who goes solar, like, think about that for a second. If you're an owner, right? Let's think about that for a second. If you're an owner right now, there's a term called bloat. So if you're thinking about income statement, balance sheet, statement of cash flow, that sort of stuff, all the stuff us business owners, sometimes love to hate. But when you think about that, if you want to make an extra $10,000, and let's say, you're a company and you're doing, maybe your profit margin is 30%. Well, every time you do a project, you bring in 30%. Well, if you look at your real numbers, meaning like, did you take dividends out of the company, or did you actually pay yourself a fair market wage, right? And when you look through all of that, usually most companies are somewhere between 5 and 15% is what, once it's all said and done, what they actually, get to hang on to and keep. So if somebody is at, let's say they're at 15% is what they, have at the end of the year, after you take out, what their fair market salary would be and everything like that. In order to go add $10,000 a month in profit to the company, you got to go 10,000 times 12 is $120,000. And then you have to divide that by your profit margin. So divided by 0.15. Any idea what that number is?
Oh, geez, that's going to be enormous.
$800,000.
Wow.
So if you're a roofing company and you want to go and you want to add $10,000 a month to your bottom line, you can go and sell $800,000 in extra roofing and complete the jobs and buy the additional trucks that you would probably need and hire the new guys that you would need to do that extra, right? And at the end of it, have an extra $10,000 a month. Or you just send 10 solar referrals that go solar, and I'll give you, $1,000 referral bonus. So you make an extra 10 grand a month without having to do all of the extra growth that comes with an extra $800,000 that you'd have to sell in your roofing company.
Geez, not to mention the headache of workman's comp and insurance and all that, those extra overhead expansions.
And sometimes you can't. I mean, you might not be able to in your city. You might have to expand to a different city or to a different state. Now you need a second building. Now you need maybe a second corporation, right? So what I would say, through the lens of an owner right now, who are some influential companies, right? Who are some influencers, number one, who have lists of your ideal client?
Sure.
People that could use, HVAC services, right? And then number two, flip it the other way. Like, who are some companies where we're already probably sending referrals? How could we just have a formalized agreement with those influencers so that when we send them referrals, we're getting a piece of the action, we're getting paid for it. And even if it seems like a small amount of money, recognize that it is all net profit, right? And it's even better than net profit. I don't want to go too deep here, but like, you got to get your gross profit then you've got your, you got your COGS, your variable expenses, then you've got your net profit. But then after that, you still have to go collect that money, your accounts receivable, you got to go collect it. And then once it's collected, right, then you've got cash in the bank. If you just make a referral, you're skipping over all of those things. You don't got to go collect it. You don't got to do the work to earn it. You don't have to like any of that, right? It's just right to your bottom line. So
Jeez.
if you're a business owner,
I'm getting like crazy excited here. This is like next level. I hope everybody's paying attention because this is literally next level stuff. We're listening from a guy that, geez, in 5 years grew this company from 0 to 134 million. If you could do just half of that with, implementing this, raise your hand if you'd like to be able to accomplish some of that in your organization.
so that's the ownership lens, right? If you're in the field, it's tricky. You got to make sure that you've got, permission from the owner of the company that you're working with, that you're a part of, and probably looks like, especially if you're sending referrals from that company, you got to make sure that they're put their blessing on it, and probably they're going to expect, since they spent money to acquire these leads, that they're going to get cut in on some of the profit of it. But if you're in the field, you want to have the same mentality. Number one, you don't need permission, by the way, to go find referral partners to get those people to send you HVAC business. Okay. Like, do that all day long. Your company owner is going to love you because you're now bringing leads and profit and sales to the company. So do that. Okay. Once you've done that, one of the great things is a lot of times your ideal client is similar. And so if they're sending you referrals, a lot of times what you're doing, it's in the best interest of the homeowner, right, for you to be able to make those connections back. So if there's, if you have a roofing company and you're in HVAC, and all of a sudden there's a big storm and you got a list of people and their roofs are all messed up, right? You're doing them a disservice by not telling them about a great company that does great work, right? It's a chance for you to be able to vet people and to be able to really take care of your homeowner to the next level and say, hey, imagine if a bunch of people get an email that says, hey, I know this storm's affected a lot of people. And so, if you need work, here's this company that we've worked with, and they do great work. Mm-hmm. It's just another way for you to stay in front of the homeowner, another way for you to help them. Give me some other examples, Sam. What are some people in HVAC where, if you're in the field, what are some other services they might need? What are some other people that you might connect them to?
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a good one. And in fact, that's something that I've always done when I had been in the field, as well as, coach people individually on, is have that basically a database of trusted referrals to be able to give people, because there's no better service to your client than being able to be the answer person, the person they come to. Hey, who do you know that, in this case, plumbing would be a great one. Electrical is a good one. Solar, obviously, there's the two that marry the best together, solar and HVAC, the largest consumer of energy in the house, plus the producer of energy for the house. Gosh, geez, yard people, gutters is a big one. Fencing, people that do fencing, painters, all of these are just fantastic. Roofers, like we mentioned, all of them basically have the same demographic. They're working with single family homeowners, which is most of the listeners work with. They're working with people who can already afford their services. So that means they can afford your service, which is also a big one. We've got to, people have to be able to pay you. And because you already, and two, the other thing, everybody, is don't just form a referral partnership with any old company out there. They have to be quality. Your name is on the line if you're giving a referral. So make sure, and like Jimmy was saying, make sure they're vetted. Because if you're just throwing, a referral to somebody and they end up doing a really poor job for the person, they're not going to trust you. So it's important to set it up properly. And the way to pass that referral is also very important. How it's handled and how you set it, how you tee it up with the homeowner is also important. That because if you start sending quality referrals to those people, they will realize what you're doing and send quality referrals back. So give it, what's an idea of how to tee that up really well for homeowners?
Yes, I mean, I just start by, like Sam said, you don't have time to not be networking. Like, spend time, network, get to know your city, become become the homeowner's resource of your local city. And again, I mean, like, what if you have one referral partner, right? One influencer who sends you 10 deals a month, sends you 2 deals a month, right? All of a sudden the math on it is like, man, if I have 5 people like that, that's adding an extra 10 deals a month just by having 5 people that send me 2 a month, right? That end up going using our HVAC services. So rather than thinking about the amount of work, and if you're a company owner, think about your cost per acquisition, right? If you've done the math and you're like, all right, I know I can spend up to $250 in order to get acquire a customer because it's going to bring this much profit back. Well, how much could you spend to acquire an influencer, to acquire a referral partner that's going to send you 2 referrals a month for a year, right? The math is just 24 times 250 is what you should be willing to spend, because that's what you spend to bring in a client right now. So I'd really focus on that end of things, just building those relationships. You can ask if you have a database. If you're a business owner and you don't have a database yet, start building a database. Go and get some sort of a software where you can collect email addresses, you can collect phone numbers, so that you can do an email blast out to your list and ask them a question like, hey, we're looking to find a referral partner in the roofing space who's had great roofing work done before. Who would you refer? Right. And they can just tell you the names of companies. And if you go to a company and say, hey, we asked our list and 10 different people said that they got, A+ roofing work from your company. And so we'd love to have a formal relationship with you where, if somebody needs roof work done or there's a storm or something, that we can send it out to our whole list and refer them off to you. Would you guys be open to doing something like that? And most businesses are used to having a cost per acquisition. And so they're just paying it to you rather than advertising. But it makes sense for them because with advertising, you got to pay the dollars first, and then you got to hope you make sales.
Right.
Referral partnerships, you get paid first. You get the referral, you do the job, you get paid, and then you pay out the commission to the referral partner. So your risk factor goes way down.
Right. Oh man, this is powerful. What a powerful conversation. I love it. I love it. I love it. So we are getting moderately close to wrapping this episode. Just so much knowledge here. Anything you want to add on to that? I've got a couple other questions for you before we wrap this episode up. For everybody listening, I could tell you that graciously, Jimmy has said that he would be on another episode as well. There's, as you can imagine, so many topics we could cover of somebody of this caliber. But anything you want to add on to this before we, like I said before, a couple other questions for you?
Yeah, just stay close, to this community. When you've got a community like Close It Now, and you've got other salespeople that follow the same philosophies. I know a lot of people in the group are in HVAC, but like Sam said, there's some pest control people, there's some solar people, there's some door-to-door people. So stay close in that community, and that's a great place for you to find referral partners. Is, hey, in this Facebook group, this Close It Now Facebook group, who in here does fill in the blank? Who does gutters? Who does roofs? Who does whatever? And it's just another filtering mechanism, because that the people who are in this group, who are in this community, they're going to have some shared values. They're going to be already listening to Sam. They're going to have a similar way of operating and of doing business. So just stay close to the community. It's a really great place for you to build, all 5 of those connection types. And if somebody's already in HVAC and, they can't be a referral partner with you, that's okay. Right? There's 5 networking connections. They can be a supporter. Maybe you learn something. Maybe there's one phrase that they use to get referral partners, or maybe there's something that they do, post sale to get better reviews or more referrals, or maybe there's something that they do, that helps them just close a higher system or a better system. So everybody in this
Sure.
group is an order. So spend time in the community and connect with other people that are in the Close It Now group.
Geez, I love it. Thank you for that. That's much appreciated. But and wow, everybody, this has been powerful today. This, as you can see, thinking on a different level. If we keep thinking the same way we've been thinking, there's only the law of the lid. We're going to bump up against that lid, and until we start to think differently, and or find people who maybe coaches, like Coach Jimmy here. He coach. I know some of the levels of people that he has coached, and oh my gosh, it forces you to think differently. So to think by thinking differently, you get different results. And of course, if you're thinking on a higher level, of course, your results are going to go higher. So last couple questions for you. You said something early on, something you mentioned for me to put in the intro that I want to just circle back on and touch on, because it kind of threw me back on my heels for a second. You had me introduce you as your goal across the next 12 months is to create 12 solar millionaires. Now, do you mean do you mean people who their personal income is $1 million? Can you expound on that a little bit? Because I know that probably caught a lot of people's ear, and it's something that has got me thinking a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so what that means is not through my coaching role, but through my role working in the field, as a trainer, somebody building, teams in the solar space, is to help 12 people get to a point where their personal income is $1 million, not $1 million once, but $1 million a year. So helping people get to a point where they're, in sales in solar, and also people that have the ability to lead and teach a team of people. It's pretty tough to make $1 million in anything without getting some leverage, but if there's that's my intention, is to help 12 people over the next 12 months get to $1 million a year income.
Wow, that is wild. That's serious numbers, everybody. That means somebody is out there working smarter, not harder. As you know, the tagline for Close It Now is st- is work smarter, not harder. Let's stop working our face off and start to work more efficiently. How do we work less and sell more? So that's clearly there's some things we can learn from this guy. So man, that is a awesome goal. So best of luck to you with that goal. Man, thank you for being on this episode today. This has been super insightful. I hope everybody else has got as many valuable pieces of info, some nuggets we call it, as I have. Coach Jimmy, how do people get in touch with you? What all do you do? You've done a lot. Obviously, you do a lot of things. How do people connect with you? And because I know a lot of people are going to be wanting to ask you some questions and see how what all do you offer? What do you do?
So you can follow me on Facebook. It's at Jimmy J's. So you can find me on there. I'm sure you can probably find me in the Close It Now Facebook group. I'm sure I'll be in there at some point. So that is, I guess, a place that you could follow me. I don't specifically do, a ton of HVAC specific training. So happy to, be here on the line with Sam today, but primarily focused on, building and growing inside of solar and capitalizing on the solar wave. So if you happen to know somebody and you know somebody who's a documented closer who has been in sales before, and you think that they, potentially got what it takes to be somebody who, can sell and can teach and can lead teams, definitely love a connection to them. And again, you can do that through Facebook. I'm sure you could, I'm sure Sam could connect us. But that's really what my focus is for the next, little bit here is just really focusing on, making an impact for homeowners, helping them lower their bills through solar, and helping, train and lead people that already are documented closers, that already, know a little bit about how to sell. You definitely can't help 12 people make $1 million in 12 months if you're, teaching somebody who was a school teacher or somebody who was a plumber. Like it's in order to do that, I've got to be working with people who know how to sell. And so again, if you people who are in sales know people who are in sales. So if you're an HVAC professional and you know somebody in another industry, or you know somebody else who's a documented closer, I'd love to meet them.
Awesome. And you heard it also. Jimmy J's is in the Facebook group, so that is one more advantage or benefit to join the Facebook group. You can connect to this guy. In fact, I think what we might do, if I'll I'll talk to Coach Jimmy outside of this podcast, but if there's enough interest from everybody in the group, we might set up a special time to do like a internal, like a Facebook Live, and do a Q&A inside the group. If there, like I said, if there's enough interest from all of you in the group, because I know that this conversation will only inspire more questions and thoughts and really get your gears turning in your brain. So hopefully that's what this did, is to really inspire some creative thought outside of the typical old HVAC box. Because and this is why I love to bring in people from outside of our industry, because there's always new innovations and ways of thinking, and we can implement that to grow our own businesses and grow our own networks. So thank you so much, Coach Jimmy, for being on today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, my friend, and I'm sure we'll talk soon. Everybody out there around the world listening to Close It Now, you know the tagline, as always: go save the world one heat stroke at a time. We'll talk to you again soon.